Hey everybody, welcome to my workshop. So I've got myself a new little setup going on here. So I've moved myself away from the dining room table, which the wife will be very happy about. So there's no more wood chippings all over the floor. And I've come out to my purpose set shop where I just as messy, in fact more messy, some of my carvings and shelf. All my paints over on one side, a load of mess. And some of the little chaps I'm going to talk about in a second. I thought I'd do this little clip. Two reasons. I'm going to make it short and sweet, so I can play around with it a little bit, make sure I get the camera angles a little bit better and set up my new area here. So this may go out and may not, depending on how this goes. And also to talk about how I finish my pieces, because quite a lot of people ask me how I'm actually finishing. So yeah, let's talk about that. So I finish my pieces in different ways depending on what it is exactly I'm trying to achieve. So I'll have a carving like this one I'm currently doing. I might be looking at it and thinking about what different ways in which I want this to look and how it's going to come out. What I tend to prefer to use is I like to paint directly on the wood. So I'll water down, as you've probably seen in quite a few of my videos if you've watched them, a real watered down solution, and I will paint directly on the wood. I just like the way the wood soaks it up. It's got the colour I'm looking for. You can also, if you prefer, seal the wood beforehand, which I do sometimes, which you could use with a boiled linseed oil. Now, I don't do that as much as I used to, and I'll explain why. If I grab one of my carvings from a little while ago, so this fella I did some time ago. He was like a bit of an Elvis impersonator. In fact, I had a little matchstick to go with him so he could sing into his matchstick. So I found that they were losing colour. You can actually see he's got a bit of a yellowy glow to him, and I found that that was because of the boiled linseed oil over time. So I started to go away from that, and I started to use wax instead. So I have Howard's feeding wax. So then what I'll do is I'll paint directly on the wood. When it's finished and it's dry, I will brush on some feeding wax, let that soak in, and then just brush them off with a brush. So to show you what some of mine look like after they've finished, if I grab, so a recent one that we did was Kratos. So Kratos we painted really, really light, very watered down. And then we literally brushed on the feeding wax. I probably left that for half an hour or so, just to soak into the wood, and then just buffed him out. And he's very, very light. When you use the wax, it can draw the colour out, but it tends not to change the colour too much, which is what I like about it. So that's him. On the most recent one we've done, which was our little Roman chap, what I did with him is I painted directly onto the wood, which you can see in some of the videos. And then, because I felt like he needed to be darkened up a little bit, I used the boiled linseed oil, a little drop of boiled linseed oil with a burnt umber oil paint. So make sure it's an oil paint, because acrylic paints won't mix with oils. So it's an oil paint. I didn't make it too dark, but that's effectively what they would call antiquing. So then you can see the difference, because we painted their faces pretty much the same. That just darkened him up quite a bit because we antiqued it. So that just gave him a little bit of I wanted him to pop a little bit more with his shield. So we antiqued him. Okay. Another process which I sometimes do, which I did with our little milkman here, is painted directly onto the wood, a lot more heavier with this one. I tend to paint much heavier with silver and white because I don't really want the wood coming through, especially on the silver. So I will paint practically out of the pot on the silver, just a little wet to the brush, so that I don't have to do quite so many coats. White is very similar unless you are looking for that washed look. So that again was thick, and I applied quite thick blue on it as well. And then what I did with this chap is I took a normal acrylic black paint, just spotted it very lightly in a tub of water, and then I wanted to give him a weathered look, so he looked like he was a well-worked milkman, and I just brushed the black on where I needed it to on this chap, and then I finished him, and I don't know if you can tell, might not be able to because of the lighting in here, but then I just finished him with a little matte spray, which I occasionally use, which I'll come over to on the next one, which is this chap. So this chap, you immediately see him in the light is I wouldn't say glossy, he's not glossy, but he's got a little bit of a shimmer to him. Okay, so with this guy, was a similar sort of process. We painted him directly onto the wood, watered down, but not too watered down on the hat, because I wanted that to actually stand out a bit more. Flick some white on him as well to give him a sort of a sky sort of look. And then we finished him with a matte spray. I use this Rust-Oleum Crystal Clear. That's a matte finish. That's also available in a gloss if you wanted to get a real shiny look on it. That kind of protects them even more, especially if the kids are playing with them. So that gives it a better layer of protection. This chap here, we did a similar thing to what we did with this one. So this one we painted directly onto the wood, and then we gave him the antique finish by using a little bit of the boiled linseed oil with a little bit of that burnt umber. Sometimes you can use like a burnt sienna. Have I got any burnt sienna? I've got the colour in acrylic, so you can just see what that. So that's a much more lighter brown, just to give it a lighter finish. You can see in these two guys, because we've used that antiquing, how they've got a slightly dirty look to them. That's what the antiquing is going to do. Whereas compared to these two guys, they're much more fleshy and lighter coloured. Then my two recent ones that we've done. Batman, which we did with quite a light colour. I think if I went back and done him again, I'd probably do that black a little bit darker. What you'll find is when you put on the wax is you'll let that settle in, and then you brush it, as I do. So we just get a brush and just brush him over. You don't want to do that too excessively, because that will bring the paint out, and although it hasn't really done too bad a job on him, you can just see that the paint is from the black is just started to lift slightly, giving him that sort of worn look. Yep, that's him. And then we did a similar thing on his compadre here, the Joker. He's just recently been waxed, so he's got a slight shine to him, which will die down, but we painted very, very watered down acrylic paints on him, and then just give him a lick of the wax. And I do like that sort of wax finish on him. So that is how I'm finishing mine. So I will finish them in different ways. So like I say, yeah, I do use the Howard's thin wax. I do like it. But I also will use the boiled linseed oil when I feel like it, especially for antiquing. But something I do quite like doing, which I've done on this guy, is where I'll actually get very watered down blacks just to touch it up a little bit, give it a slight dirty sort of antique-y looking thing, but then also use the sprays as well. So that's my little fellas there, and that's how I actually finish them, which I haven't shown on a video yet, but I plan to do on future ones. Thanks very much for tuning in. And as I said before, this is kind of a new setup for me, so we're going to keep it nice and short and sweet, and see how this is how this comes out. And hopefully it's a little bit better film quality, a little bit better area that I can work in. So when I'm actually, I might need to lift it slightly when I'm actually doing some whittling, but I just want to get it as close as I possibly can without getting it in my face. So what I've got now is like an overview, so I can't see the camera as well as it normally would, but I've got a proper overview now, so I can actually see my hands perfectly well without the camera being anywhere in my face. So if I can draw out a little map, I'll be able to know exactly where I am. So hopefully the next ones will be a little bit better. The painting, when I'd done previously, I was a bit upset about when I watched it back, and I slipped off the screen quite a few times. But, you know, these things happen. We live and learn. That's what it's all about. But, yeah, brilliant. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I hope that was of use to you. Ask me any questions if you want on finishing. I'll try and help if I can. Yeah, brilliant. Excellent. Have a good evening. Thanks, everyone.